I like to have a laugh, of course. And I think I'd like to do different entities of being a creative person because I like to create things, you know. I like to draw. I like to create stories and write songs and things like that. So in the future, I'll try out different things, but at the core of it will always be my music because that, of course, makes me the most happy.
Even the biggest artists of all time have low points in their careers, points where they quote-unquote fall off or perhaps just lose the public's interest in general. The singles start peaking lower and lower, the albums don't sell as well, and their name begins to become associated with an era of the past rather than on the cutting edge of modern-day music. Very few artists can maintain cultural relevance for more than a decade, and that's nothing against those that can't. It's damn near impossible to keep up with the rapidly changing musicscape, not to mention how the tastes of the public vary wildly from year to year. That being said, Katy Perry's career trajectory is one that is honestly stupefying to say the least, being a simple story of a pop star's light going out at best and a clear example of how not to handle one's career at worst. But the name Katy Perry is nothing to scoff at, however. Here we have a woman that is, to date, one of the best-selling music artists of all time, having sold over 143 million units worldwide. All of her major label albums have surpassed 1 billion streams on Spotify. She has the second most diamond certified singles for any female artist in the United States, holding 6 to her name. She is only the second artist of all time to produce 5 #1 singles from one album, holding 9 #1 singles overall in the United States. She has the title of being the first female artist to have a music video reach 1 billion views on Vivo, garnering her second just a month later, making her the first artist in history to have multiple videos exceeding the 1 billion mark. She's broken 4 Guinness World Records and was named the highest paid female musician in 2 individual calendar years, and is one of the world's wealthiest musicians with an estimated net worth of $350 million. Unless you were living under a rock between the years of 2008 and 2014, there was no chance you didn't hear a Katy Perry song in some kind of capacity, whether it be on the radio or in the grocery store, at a party, or wherever. Katy Perry was synonymous with 2010's pop music, essentially ruling the radio and charts during the first 4 years of the decade. But as we know now, that same success is a thing of the past. But it all seemed to happen so suddenly and quite frankly out of nowhere. And that's what makes the decline of Katy Perry that much more notable, how sharp, quick, and steep it was. But what's even more notable than the commercial decline itself is the fact that Katy has yet to come anywhere close to the level of commercial success and relevance that she once had, which is crazy considering she has some of the most universally recognized songs in pop music history. Nothing can take away the milestone success that Katy saw in the late 2000s and early 2010s, but one album in particular stands out not only in Katy's discography, but pop music as a whole, a phenomenon that came out of nowhere, an album and era that saw the name Katy Perry being plastered everywhere. A quintessential perfect pop album, an era unlike anything the world had seen up until that point. That album is Teenage Dream. In the summer of 2008, One of the Boys was released as Katy's second studio album and her first album under the stage name Katy Perry, following her debut album titled Katy Hudson, which came 7 years prior in 2001. All things considered, it's universally agreed that One of the Boys was Katy Perry's proper debut as we know her. It was by every measure a successful debut for one of the many pop acts debuting around this time. 3 out of the album's 4 singles broke the top 10 in the United States. Commercially, One of the Boys debuted at number 9 on the US Billboard 200, selling over 47,000 copies in its first week of sales, and also peaked within the top 10 charts in 8 other countries. One of the Boys earned 2 Grammy Award nominations and has sold 7 million copies worldwide, being Katy's 3rd highest selling album to date. The album sounds very much like it was made in 2008, and the pop-punk edge that exists throughout the record would be abandoned with Katy's next release, and that was a release that would skyrocket Katy Perry into the pop stratosphere nearly overnight.
It was a perfect snapshot for where I was. Now, Teenage Dream is a perfect snapshot for a young 25-year-old woman. The first record was really cute, and it was very spot on for how old I was then. I had made it from 17 to 23. It's It's definitely got like as much sugar as One of the Boys, but I think it has a lot more perspective. Some of the stories may make you think, maybe they'll make you feel, maybe they make you laugh, make you cry. I know when I hear a song and I'm in a certain mood, it can make me like want to change my whole plans for the night. Like maybe they'll make me cry or they'll make me reevaluate my life, and then there'll be some songs that I hear and I'm not in a good mood, and whatever it is, my ultimate goal is just to make people feel with music, because I think that is really important, the power of music, and hopefully people can hear that displayed in this record.
Katy's third album, Teenage Dream, was released on August 24, 2010, and quickly became an era-defining release of early 2010s pop music. While One of the Boys was a more brash and punk-inspired record, Teenage Dream was almost a reset for Katy Perry as she embraced a far softer and bubblier aesthetic. Teenage Dream is widely considered to be one of the cornerstone releases in a golden age of pop music, its sound being derived from a variety of pop genres, while heavily incorporating different musical styles not heard on her previous releases. Teenage Dream is, by all measures, a perfect pop album in my opinion, one that doesn't take itself too seriously, but doesn't lack punch. The genesis of the album's title and overall theme was described by Katy as being inspired by this euphoric feeling like everyone remembers what their teenage dreams were. Teenage Dream is a carefree album. Like its namesake, it calls back to a time of innocent optimism about life and love. This is most evident in the album's title track, but expands across the entire album. The iconic cover is actually a painting, a fact that astonished me because I always assumed it was an actual photo. It shows Katy lying naked on clouds of pink cotton candy and was painted on a 6x6 canvas by American painter Will Cotton. He called the artwork Cotton Candy Katy and later provided art direction for the album's lead single, California Girls. Teenage Dream's album cover is a now iconic one, instantly recognizable and clearly shows what kind of album you're about to get into. A limited number of physical copies of the album actually had a cotton candy scent as well. Overall, Teenage Dream is a defining record from a truly iconic era of pop music, and the unprecedented success of its singles would prove that fact. The lead single from Teenage Dream was California Girls featuring Snoop Dogg. The song was released on May 7, 2010. According to Katy herself, California Girls is an answer to Jay-Z's 2010 smash hit Empire State of Mind, which in itself was an ode to New York. California Girls is an ode to the state of California, in which both Katy and Snoop Dogg were born and raised. Labeled as the song of the summer, the song was a worldwide smash success, peaking at #1 on the Billboard Hot 100 for 6 consecutive weeks, giving Katy her second #1 single in the US and Snoop Dogg his third. The song also reached #1 in 7 other countries. It is diamond certified in the United States, being the first of 4 diamond singles under Katy's belt. California Girls is without a doubt one of the defining songs of 2010 and one of Katy's signature songs. The vibrant candy-themed music video was equally as iconic as the song, being the perfect introduction to the Teenage Dream era. The candy-colored hair became a staple look for Katy throughout the rest of the era. California Girls was an unprecedented smash success, but it would only be the beginning of the long-running reign of Katy Perry. The title track was released as a second single from the album on July 23, 2010, and was somewhat of a departure from the lead single, far more mellow and euphoric. Teenage Dream, the song, is a throwback to the euphoric feelings of being in love as a teenager, being partially inspired by Katy's youth. The song recalls the aforementioned feelings of innocence and head-over-heels love that many of us experience in our teenage years, that carefree type of feeling of being with a lover that makes you feel young again. The song topped the US Billboard Hot 100, becoming Katy's third #1 single on the chart and her second consecutive #1 single after California Girls. To date, Teenage Dream, the song, is certified diamond in the United States and was ranked among the 500 best pop songs of all time by Billboard. The self-empowerment anthem Firework was released as the third single from Teenage Dream on October 26, 2010. A 4th of July anthem, the song was yet another runaway smash hit for Katy, being the third consecutive #1 single from the album. The song itself was nominated for 2 Grammys and won Video of the Year at the 2011 MTV VMAs. Firework was ranked the 5th most played song on radio in 2011, being played an estimated 509,000 times. E.T. was released as the fourth single from Teenage Dream on February 11, 2011. Far more up-tempo and experimental than the previous two singles, E.T. is one of my all-time personal favorites from Katy's discography. It's an electronic and hip-hop influenced song which draws heavily from dubstep and techno with elements of drum and bass. The song became Katy's fifth #1 on the US Billboard Hot 100. Being certified diamond, the song was the fourth biggest song of 2011 according to Billboard. It also received a remix with Kanye West. The fifth single from Teenage Dream was Last Friday Night, tgif, which was released on June 6, 2011. It's hard to select a cornerstone or standout track from an album as jam-packed with hits as Teenage Dream, but Last Friday Night is definitely one of the most representative of what Teenage Dream is all about. Like its sister singles, California Girls and the title track, Last Friday Night exemplifies the fun, youthful carelessness that this era was built upon. The song was yet another worldwide smash hit for Katy, reaching #1 in 4 countries and has attained top 10 positions in 4 others. When it topped the US Billboard Hot 100, Katy became the first female solo artist to have 5 #1 singles on the Hot 100 from a single album. It was also Katy's 6th #1 single on the Billboard Hot 100 chart in just 4 years at that point, and her 5th consecutive #1 single. It also received a remix with Missy Elliott. Last Friday Night was the 10th most played song on US radio in 2011. And with Firework and E.T. being the 5th and 4th most played respectively, Katy had 3 of the top 10 most played singles on US radio in 2011. The One That Got Away was released as the 6th and final single from the standard edition of Teenage Dream on September 30th, 2011. The most mid-tempo single since the title track and the most somber track on the album, The One That Got Away is truly a gem in the discography of Katy in my opinion. It's one of those songs that if you hear it at the wrong time, it feels like a punch in the gut, honestly. Keeping with the theme of teenage years, the era wouldn't be complete without at least a little bit of teenage heartbreak. I'm pleased to select The One That Got Away as my 6th single because this song shows a very different side of me that I haven't shown with my past singles on this record. I think that everyone can relate to this song. I wrote it about when you promise someone forever, but you end up not being able to follow through. It's a bittersweet story. Hopefully the listener learns from hearing it and never has to say they had the one get away. The One That Got Away peaked at #3 on the Billboard Hot 100, being the first and only single from the album to not reach #1 in the United States. Regardless, Teenage Dream became the 7th album in the then 53-year history of the Hot 100 to generate at least 6 top 10 hits. Like the previous 2 singles, The One That Got Away received a rapper-assisted remix, this time with B.O.B. As the Teenage Dream era rapidly approached its 2-year mark, the pop domination of Katy Perry showed no signs of slowing down. Aiming to capitalize on the massive success of the album, it was decided that Teenage Dream would receive a reissue in the form of The Complete Confection, which was released on March 23, 2012. The reissue featured the acoustic version of The One That Got Away, 3 new songs, Part of Me, Wide Awake, and Dressin' Up, and 3 remixes. Described by Katy as the complete story of Teenage Dream, the reissue aimed to refine leftovers from the original album's recording sessions that were left on the cutting room floor. The Complete Confection boosted the sales of the original album, causing it to re-enter the top 10 in the United States 2 years after its release. Part of Me was released as a lead single from the reissue and the 7th overall from Teenage Dream on February 13, 2012. The song has a decidedly more angry and serious tone compared to its sister singles, and for this reason it was actually left off of the original album. Katy later decided to rework it and add it to The Complete Confection. Part of Me saw Katy return to #1 on the Billboard Hot 100, being only the 20th song of all time to debut at the top spot. The Teenage Dream era would come to an end with the release of Wide Awake as the 2nd single from The Complete Confection and 8th overall. Released on May 22, 2012, the song has a similar vibe to Teenage Dream's title track. It is a reflective power ballad that talks about moving forward and facing the reality of a breakup. The song was yet another success for Katy, peaking at #2 in the United States and would have undoubtedly hit the top spot. However, Carly Rae Jepsen's inescapable smash hit, Call Me Maybe, maintained a firm hold on #1. Regardless, Wide Awake was the perfect way to conclude the Teenage Dream era. It was poetic as it represented Katy waking up from the dream and moving on. It represented maturity and coming to terms with oneself.
Thank you. Hey, this is cool. They told me the only other person that's received this award is Michael Jackson, so I feel incredibly honored to be in that same category, although I don't compare at all. First of all, I want to say thank you to my incredibly supporting, long-lasting, everlasting in my mind, record label EMI. I love you. My village of people that I've surrounded myself with, I couldn't do it without you guys. And all the radio stations that chose my song to play, thank you. But most of all, of course, I always say that the people have the power, and so I want to say thank you to all the glittering, gorgeous community of fans out there. My fans call themselves the Katy Cats, so rock on, Katy Cats.
It cannot be understated just how much of a once-in-a-lifetime smash success that Teenage Dream really was. A writer for Pitchfork said it best, stating, "Teenage Dream came to have a good time and to hit it really, really big. Teenage Dream, Last Friday Night, California Girls, Firework, and E.T., 5 #1 singles in a row. Some pop stars spend their whole lives trying to put together a string of hits that amount to a lasting legacy. Katy Perry did it in just the first 15 minutes. This album is a crowning achievement, not just of her career, but of its style. Teenage Dream achieved a laundry list of records throughout its era. California Girls, the title track, Firework, E.T., and Last Friday Night all reached #1 in the US, making Katy only the second artist of all time to have 5 #1 singles from one album. The first was Michael Jackson's Bad in 1987. All 6 of Teenage Dream's singles were top 5 hits, being an unprecedented reign in pop music history. All in all, Katy Perry's Teenage Dream was a one-of-a-kind era in pop music. All 8 singles that were released during the era peaked within the top 5 of the Billboard Hot 100, with 6 of the 8 songs reaching #1. It's important to note that Part of Me and Wide Awake aren't officially counted towards the original album, but rather the Complete Confection, which was considered its own standalone release. This was an interesting decision to say the least, considering those 2 extra hits being added to the original album would have meant that Katy would have broken Michael Jackson's record, but I digress. Still, very few eras can claim this monumental feat. Teenage Dream is one of only 3 albums to produce 6 or more top 5 singles on the Billboard Hot 100, alongside George Michael's Faith in 1987 and Janet Jackson's Rhythm Nation 1814 in 1989. The album was nominated for 7 Grammys, however, it astonishingly lost all of them. It cannot be understated just how much of a household name Katy Perry was at this point. She was a pop hit making machine, and every song she released was an almost guaranteed smash hit. Teenage Dream is truly a perfect pop album if you've ever seen one. Adding to the runaway success of this era, Katy's California Dreams tour was adapted into a documentary concert film titled Katy Perry Part of Me. The film grossed $33 million worldwide, making it the second highest grossing music concert film ever by a female artist and 5th overall. The film sits as the 11th highest grossing documentary in US history. It could be argued that Teenage Dream stands as one of the most important pop albums released in the last 15 years, holding an often unspoken influence on pop music in the years that followed and inspiring so many other pop artists with its unique, fun aesthetic. Teenage Dream is emblematic of a key period in music, being released during the pop music boom of the early 2010s, and it's important to note that this was a period of time where competition was absolutely fierce. This period of music saw unprecedented dominance from Katy's peers at the time, such as Lady Gaga, Rihanna, who was seeing a reinvigorated surge in her own career with the release of Loud, Kesha's debut era, Animal, which ruled the charts, and also not to mention Bieber fever was in full effect as well. Even music veterans like Usher and Britney Spears were seeing a renaissance in their own careers during this period, having hit after hit on the charts. So for Katy Perry to come through with an astonishing 5 #1 singles, 6 if you count the Complete Confection, in the midst of all this brutal competition is commendable, to say the least. And the fact of the matter is, success on this level just isn't something you can duplicate easily. The follow-up to Teenage Dream, 2013's Prism, saw its own level of success. It was Katy's fastest-selling album, but to date has not sold anywhere close to Teenage Dream's numbers. The album still garnered Katy 2 more top 10 hits with Roar and Dark Horse, but none of its other singles broke the top 10, unfortunately. Overall, Prism was still a success for Katy, albeit nowhere near the smash that its predecessor was. And after Prism, it would seem like Katy would forever be doomed to chase the level of relevance that she had in the early 2010s. And again, none of that is to say that Katy Perry isn't good anymore. Originally, this video was supposed to be about the quote-unquote downfall of Katy Perry, but I didn't want to make something so negative, so I pivoted the focus towards Teenage Dream. 2017's Witness and 2020's Smile failed to make even a fraction of the success of Katy's previous 3 albums. And while I personally have a few favorites from both Witness and Smile, the overall issue seems to be that Katy Perry never really evolved as a musician after Teenage Dream. And this became painfully obvious with the release of Woman's World, which is dated based on its premise alone, not even mentioning the Dr. Luke controversy. All of that aside, I do still look forward to Katy's forthcoming album, but as it stands, it seems that, for better or worse, Katy has been stuck in the early 2010s creatively for quite some time now. Despite the challenges in maintaining her success, Teenage Dream remains a perfect pop album, capturing the spirit of a golden age in pop music.